on time this time.
Got it.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jay, on time.
Welcome to this week's Arguably Correct.
I just want to say arguably correct.
Why do you want to say it?
Because I've been practicing it to make sure I say it right. Arguably correct.
How'd you like that in your ear holes?
Sounded like a cult there for a second. Arguably correct. All hail arguably correct.
Not a bad idea. Would we have a welfare system
No.
in this dictatorship?
We would not.
No?
Well, wait. Yes, we would. So yeah, we're going to talk about welfare this week.
It's a big nut. Like there's a lot of facets to that welfare. There's a lot of things that underneath that umbrella, so to speak.
Are.
So what's your problem with giving money to the poor?
So I'll start by saying this. I do think that we should help out those less fortunate in our society. So the fact that there is a system in place, I think that's a good thing. I also think that it's been abused and overused and probably needs redone at some point. I think and maybe it's just where I live. I don't know if it's everywhere, but from what I can tell, it seems like some people do it for a living.
So I had this conversation with somebody else the other day about these kind of things, and I think the bottom line is financially, monetarily, it's not a big deal. Excuse me, I got the hiccups here. Not a big deal monetarily, right? Like as far as how much money we spend.
We don't spend a lot on it, correct?
Right. So we're kind of like, I don't know, we're bitching about the BB in the bathtub, you know? If you were to take away all the welfare money that's ever spent in the United States and apply it somewhere else, it wouldn't make. It's not that much money.
Yeah, I know it's not a huge percentage of the budget. I realize that if we're going to talk about actually like trying to pay down a national debt, maybe we should start looking at defense spending.
Defense is probably the biggest.
Yeah, so I agree that there are other things to look at. However, that doesn't mean that if you're wasting money, you should continue to waste money, especially when we're in debt.
I think my biggest problem is what's the cultural significance of it, the training of a society to say that you don't have to, you can survive without actually contributing to society, so to speak, in a traditional way. So it's a culture that it breeds, and that's what I.
One thing that I saw was what somebody said, which I thought was a dumb idea. I mean, I get the concept. They're like, oh, we should drug test anybody who's on welfare.
I liked the idea at first too, until I thought about it for 30 seconds.
The cost of that?
Manage it, the cost, and yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
You would double the budget for welfare just for that, and it's like, okay, now you have X amount of people that can't get it, and now what do? They start robbing and stealing, and
so that's the antithesis here is that. Yeah, you could take it away, or you can even say, okay, you're going to be on it for 6 months, but then what happens after that?
I don't think it should be taken away. I'm just think there are things that I see about it that kind of bug me, if that makes sense. So like, a lot of times people can, I don't know. I think
work the system, right?
That's where you're going. Yeah. And then that to me is upsetting. I know it used to be. I think food stamps used to actually be stamps. Now I was told that they have cards, like credit cards.
So they can manage it better, yeah. Because, well, before you could actually sell your...
I didn't mean to laugh.
You could actually sell your food stamps.
So it can be... Okay, correct. I thought you meant...
You could have given it to anybody.
I thought you meant to the people who had it could manage it. I was like, well, if they could manage it, they wouldn't fucking need welfare, but all right.
Well, and that's not necessarily even true.
It's not necessarily true, but I'm just jaded.
Right, I hear you.
So what upsets me is when you have someone who is receiving this assistance, and yet they're still able to make stupid decisions financially. So okay, well, if you're on welfare and you go out and you buy a PlayStation 4 or a big screen TV, like what the fuck, dude? What then why did we help buy your food this month? Like, really? That's what you use? They don't seem to have any and I say I know it's a broad stroke when I say that. I'm not picking on every single person who gets help. I do think we need
lifers. People who exist on it for their whole entire...
Yes.
With no reason for it.
And no plan on getting off of it.
Yeah.
It's okay, well...
and a lot of them people have a cash job somewhere working under the table.
Yeah.
And they collect.
I've seen that. And I know other people who have even, gauged how much they work. Well, I can't work anymore this year because it'll move me up too high and I'll lose my benefits. Well, they're not benefits, asshole. Like, everybody else is pitching in for that for you. Why don't you just work a little harder? And so it's
funny you say that. Let me jump on that. I had a coworker a while back. We were having a similar conversation about welfare, and they were saying the same thing you are. People abuse the system, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. And this man has been dating this woman for like 15 years. And it went in naturally. And I'm like, oh, by the way, when are you guys going to ever get married? He says, well, we're not going to get married. She'd lose her benefits.
See?
At the job she had because he made more money.
Which
and if they got married, I'm thinking, wait a minute. You are entirely the people you're complaining about.
Yeah.
Because you're saying that, I'm not going to give up my benefits to do this, or whatever. I'm going to continue to work the system. I'm like, how are you any different than somebody else working the system? And you're not.
At what point do the benefits become more than just helping? Like, for instance, there are programs out there where we'll give you an air conditioner. We'll insulate your house. We'll buy you new appliances. What the fuck? Like, maybe I'm just a dick when it comes to this, but go get a job, motherfucker. Like, welfare should be there to keep you alive and the basic comforts. So I get if you're, 85 years old, maybe you need an air conditioner. Okay, whatever. But if you're like 30 years old and you're one of the lifers, you don't need an air conditioner, motherfucker. You just don't. Sorry. You don't get one.
So,
or go buy one.
Your argument is if you're able-bodied,
yes,
able-minded,
yes,
and again that can be construed. There's a lot of people who look able-bodied and able-minded who are not.
I know a lot of people that are able-bodied and able-minded, and they still abuse the system.
That's true.
And they go out of their way to make sure that they can abuse the system.
In what way?
To make sure that they don't make enough, to make sure that they
don't take
the cash jobs. Yeah, exactly.
Take the cash jobs. Yeah. Well,
I know someone who receives benefits, and they also have like a swimming pool and all this other stuff. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, I'm glad it's there. I think it should be there.
I agree.
It's the living off of it and the
scamming for it.
Or well, and what happens is it's secular in nature, right? Because your parent, and I'm just not picking on not you, but the proverbial your parents do it, and you know how the system works, so you get into the system, and then your kids get into the system, and it just keeps revolving. It's a revolving door. And I wouldn't have the slightest idea right now without Googling it or whatever, how in the hell, if I lost my job tomorrow and I was broke and I needed food stamps, no idea how to get them. I would have no clue whatsoever. I wouldn't know what documents I'd need. I don't know what door to go down.
But I could point you to a neighborhood or two where people would be more than happy to sell you.
And we've joked, but that's not wrong. My next door neighbor, we were having a chat a couple years back, and he said, hey, the city got a grant to pay one bill per person or whatever. All you have to do is show up with a bill. They'll pay up to $600 or whatever bill that is. And I'm like, how the hell do you even know about that?
Yeah.
And his flat out comment goes, I was raised in the system, man. I know about these things. Like, and he's not now. Like, the house he bought was an urban development program house, so he got $25,000 off the house just to live there for at least 5 years. And he flat out said, like, I grew up in the system. I know how to work it, and I use it to my advantage. Now, granted, he uses it to his advantage to better himself, and he is now bettered, right? He actually used it.
The idea is to use it to get off of it. So that's it. So if someone is using it to do that, to hey, I'm having a tough time. I need help right now, and their end goal is to leave the system and be done with it. Dude, okay, fine.
You're right. But, and he talked about this bill for $600. I said, oh, did you participate? He goes, oh, hell yeah. Like, this guy doesn't need that. Like, he has two jobs. Like, he works a regular job and he has a side job mowing lawns. On the legit, like, he pays taxes because he's done it for me before, and he's like, hey, I need this for sales tax and everything, so it's legit. And he does all these things, and I said, you're gonna have him pay your bill. I mean, doesn't that feel? He goes, they're gonna give it away anyway. The money's there. It's a grant.
And that's what.
But I mean, he's kind of right? I mean, if he doesn't use it, somebody else will. And why not benefit him? It's his money too, and in the bigger scheme of things, he contributes to this as much as anybody else does.
It's supposed to be something to help people who need help.
Yeah. But
it becomes a system that gets taken advantage of and abused, and that's what bothers me.
And it gets into the politics of, hey, we're the ones who give this to you. You should vote us in all the time.
That's a whole nother thing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and it does. It breeds a level of dependence.
Yeah,
that is hard to get out of. We in previous episodes talk about check cashing stuff, and when you get down that slippery slope of relying on something that you. And then you can get buried real quick.
I don't have to go out and work because I'll get money for quote unquote free, and I'll go buy my food.
It's a really
this
low
way.
quality of life, though. I mean, you see some of these people who do that. I mean, yeah, they might have a swimming pool, or they might have a PlayStation, but generally speaking, it's not a great quality of life.
But you shouldn't. I don't think you should have those things if you're receiving benefits.
So you also against the person buying steaks with food stamps?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Motherfucker,
I mean, you
get
contributed to
spam.
that. You contributed to that system. You're a worker and you're on it for 3 months.
It's just
You shouldn't have a steak.
it's
It's your money. You put into it.
it's
So, right?
It's first of all, it's a bad decision. For instance, let's say that my food budget is $50 for the week, and then I go out and I spend $35 on a steak. Well, that was stupid. Like, that's just a dumb decision. Like, it's just not smart. So if somebody is giving you X amount of dollars to eat off of, and you can afford to buy a steak, they're giving you too much, in my opinion. You don't get those things. You get those things if you earned them on your own. And
But
then,
if it's not going to make you nutritionally deficient, right? You can still pay your bills, and it's just you're in an interim of time that you don't have it. This is something that you wanted or whatever for that moment. Yeah, you were on food stamps. So say you're on it for 5 or 6 months because you got
yeah.
hurt at work, and you know what? You're down
fine,
on it.
yep. It's there for that.
Should you have to eat cat food? But I mean, so long as you can make your bills, what does it matter what I eat? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm still going to get off.
If you can afford to buy a $30 steak, we've paid you too much.
I mean, you're not buying a $30 steak at Kroger.
Well,
They don't exist.
That's not true.
Well,
They have fillets you can buy. It's like
It's like
there's
30
two
bucks.
steaks for like anywhere between $25 and $30.
for two. Right, okay, fair. Yeah. But
little
shit,
packet of
price of
steaks.
hamburger is $5 a fucking pound anymore. So you might. Anyway, regardless. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
people complain about they're buying pop. They do this. It's like, if I contributed to the system and I was to receive benefits from the system, you can go suck an egg what I choose to buy with it. I put my money into it too, just as much as you did.
Well, okay. First of all, not everybody puts their money into it. Second of
I'm
all,
talking about from that perspective.
if you're to the point that you need help, that you can't feed yourself or your family anymore, if you're in that rough spot, or you're a lifer, whatever the reason, spend your money better. Be wiser
But I'm
about
saying
it.
if I'm spending at this moment the money that I have and I'm spending, I'm still feeding myself, or maybe I only eat once a day. Maybe this is the budget I have and I eat once a day, and that's what I eat is I eat a steak. What is it to you?
What it is to me is that you just spent all that money on the steak that you could have fed
I can't do it
yourself.
for anything else.
You could have fed yourself
But I don't-
for a week instead of
This
one
is all I
day.
eat. I only eat steak. I can't eat anything else.
That's your
Against
problem.
my-
I guess you starve then.
I just think
you don't
where
get
do
you don't get
how do
free
you
steaks.
How do you get to choose the the level of quality of food I get to eat because I'm on welfare? No,
Because
I
it's
don't
not
think
your
so.
money.
It is. I paid into it. I'm going from that premise right there that I'm a working member of society. I've paid my taxes.
Wait.
I've paid into the system. I should be able to use it however I damn well feel.
The premise being this: if you can afford to spend that $30 on that steak, you didn't need the welfare money. You could have eaten lesser quality food that would still keep you alive without needing the system. So now you're abusing the system
Potentially. I mean, I don't agree, but
mathematically.
I don't agree. I just so where do you draw a line?
Well, we have some lines drawn already. You can't use it to buy alcohol. You can't.
It's not nutritious food. It's not sustenance.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. I mean, you're talking about food. That's not food.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
It has no killer.
there's definitely calories. There's definitely calories.
Caloric benefit, I was going to say. But one guy I used to work with says there's a pork chop in every can, right?
My gut tells you there's calories. Yes.
Well, so you go back into the quality of food, what it is,
And I'm not even getting too much on that because I was thinking about that because I think what's his name, Trump. He had said, it took me a second. He had said something about like going back to the old, you don't get food stamps anymore. You get a box basically of food. That's what his idea was. So here's your box of government cheese. Here's your powdered milk. Here's your powdered whatever. Here's what you're getting because you're receiving benefits. You don't get to choose what you eat anymore. And I actually almost like that idea. The problem that I think would arise is everybody's going to say that they're fucking gluten allergy, whatever, this food allergy, that. And and that concept, it wouldn't work. But it used to work back in the day. That's what happened. You got food rations delivered to you, not money to go to the store and buy whatever you wanted.
That's I don't know that to be true. I do know a little bit of that to be true, but not all of that. And part of the things like the cheese and the milk, certain dairy products.
Yeah.
And the thing with the food stamp system too is that money is out there. It's a subsidy to the farmers.
What do you mean?
Food stamps are subsidies to farmers. Like that's part of the farm bill, right? So when you have food stamps particularly, right, there's a certain amount of money that the government substitutes or what do you call it? Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind here. Gives to the farmers, and that's what the food stamps come from. That's where that budget is.
You lost me. Do food stamps come from farmers?
It's a supplement to the farmers, yes.
But
that money goes to the farm.
What money?
The money that is invested in that budget item for welfare, for food stamps particularly, goes to subsidize farmers.
What money?
What do you mean, what money?
So I
budget
guess
for it, right?
The budget.
That money.
The money that goes to welfare. It goes to food stamps.
Because we subsidize farmers in this country.
Okay.
Right? That's where that money, that money is, that subsidy is going to happen. And these are actually to pull from that subsidy, pull from those products, right? That's what that
This doesn't make any sense to me.
I'll have to show it to you later. Then.
Yeah, I'm not following your logic on this. Mm-hmm. If the government says, here's $1 billion for food stamps, mm-hmm. and then they give those food stamps out to other people, where do the farmers come to play in this?
So when they spend those food stamps, that's
mm-hmm.
where the farmers get the subsidies.
But they're spending money that we already gave them.
We already gave them?
Yeah, because you take $1 billion out of the budget and you give people food stamps, and then that $1 billion just left the budget. So then when they spend the food stamps, there's no profit coming back in anywhere. It's money we already spent to give them. So how does that get any? How do you? It sounds like government math, but yeah.
I'll have to show you.
We're like, you know, how like
explaining it correctly.
Like how money is created out of debt and how every dollar's got debt attached to it, sort of thing.
Yes.
But the money's not there anymore. You collected all the taxes from the taxpayers. Mm-hmm. You've grabbed that $1 billion out. You've put it back out there. Mm-hmm. It's a lost $1 billion at that point. Whatever comes back from that was still lost from the get-go.
Right, but I'm saying when you pay when somebody uses food stamps and they have that subsidy, that money that's spent there mm-hmm. goes to the farmers, the people who produce that product, right? Or at least in this country, the subsidies. That's the idea of it. At least that's the way I understood it. So I'll have to look it up after here and I'll show you.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we'll move on from that.
And again, it's a small amount of money in the scheme of things, which is kind of interesting.
Again, it is a small amount of the budget, but you could definitely save more by cutting defense. There are other things that upset me more. Mm-hmm. This one just upsets me because, you know, like I know people who, you know, volunteer and there's places that, you know, give food to the homeless and all this stuff.
Food banks and stuff too.
Absolutely. So meanwhile, there's the food banks going on, and then you got other dude, you know, you buying your steak with your food stamp because you feel you're entitled to a fucking steak because you paid into the system. Well, great. Dude down the street's fucking starving to death. Mm-hmm. You don't need that steak. And you didn't earn that steak. I know you paid into the system, mm-hmm. but that system is to keep you alive and bail you out. You don't get to have steak when you're getting bailed out. You don't get the luxuries in life when you're getting bailed out. You need to get by. That's it. So if you spent less on your steak, that means that maybe 5 other people could fucking eat that day. That's where I have the problem with it. I don't think you should get the nice things if you're getting free money, whether you paid into it or not. It's there as a safety net, a bailout. So if I ever ended up on food stamps, I wouldn't be buying steaks. I think you have to make better decisions with your money, whether it's your money or not. And that's the problem, is that nobody realizes that it's free. Motherfucker, no, it's not free. Nothing is free. Someone somewhere gave money up out of their pockets to give you that. And you're wasting it on things you don't need. And that's my...
And I think my biggest argument is not that, it's just the culture that breeds that you don't have to... This is here, you don't have to. You can survive meagerly for the rest of your life if you want to off of, you know... I say off the government, but off society. Off
the backs of everybody else who's working. So why do you have a pool and a flat screen and these other nice things if you're on food stamps? Clearly, you don't need the food stamps. You could not buy a pool. You could not buy a flat screen, and you could feed yourselves. So, I think that's maybe there's something that should be. And again, I don't know how the system works. I don't know where you go to get it. Mm-hmm. So I guess there's that part of it too. But maybe there's like a form you should fill out. Maybe if you're on food stamps, there's got to be. Is there a caseworker assigned to somebody or something? Mm-hmm. So why don't that caseworker all of a sudden get like access to your financial records, where they can see your mony?
They do.
Okay, so then how do you buy a pool and a flat screen? Maybe they go, hey, you know what? You spend you spent $800 on a flat screen TV this month. Guess what? You're not getting $800 worth of benefits. You didn't need that flat screen. You don't need a flat screen TV to survive.
Right. So, back in the 70s, I think my parents were my dad was going through, what do you call it? A layoff. and exhausted everything that we couldn't. Had like 3 more weeks, but we were just at the end of it. So went through all the things. Here we are, and they did. They you went from the story I heard. Went in and they said, "Here's your assets." And I think they had a crappy old car, and they're like, "Oh, this car is worth X amount of dollars." And parents were like, "Here's the deed. Here's the title. Give me the money, and we'll just walk out of here. That's fine." We've been paying. We've never been, so on and so forth. But how complicated it was digging through everything. And again, if you don't grow up in the system, you don't know how it works.
It should be. I mean, I want to say it should be difficult, but it shouldn't be easy, and it shouldn't be something again, take care of the people in society that can't take care of themselves. I get that. I'm for that. Mm-hmm. So if you are, unable to get work because of your illness, disease, mental illness, if you're, whatever, yes, we should help people in our society that need help. But a lot of people are abusing the system that don't need to. It's just easier. And they don't mind living, quote unquote, in poverty because they're just, it's easy. It's very, very easy.
So, in government, food stamps in particular has the contribution to the public has been less and less each year for like the last 10 years and going down in a downward trend, which I thought was interesting.
We're spending less on it?
Yeah.
Okay,
we're
good.
Giving less and less of it, yeah. Which I thought was kind of weird. I would have thought it would go up because, we have more people, obviously, right? But and they project it so this year's projected is $461 billion, for food stamps. In 2020, it's projected to be $440 billion, and then about 448. So then it kind of climbs back up there. But again, you're talking, we had 300 million people, and we were spending $525 billion on food stamps, and now we have 330 million people, and we're spending essentially, let's see, $60 million or $600 million less. So it's weird.
It's just insane, though.
It's a lot of money,
and it's not like other problems are solved. It's not like we don't have a homeless problem, and mental illness problems, and all sorts of other problems of, if we cut the fat out of that, all you can buy is that you have a section in the grocery store where here's what you can get with food stamps. Mm-hmm. Everything else, sorry, it's going to cost you money. And it's just the necessities, what you need to actually survive. I don't care if it's bland. I don't care if it doesn't matter.
So,
but
back to my point, I had to look up some things while we were talking here, so I didn't feel so dumb. I knew I was talking about.
So you're gonna chuck facts at me now, huh?
So yes.
Hang on, let me open this beer that I bought with my hard-earned money and no food stamps got for me.
The USDA funds welfare. Funds the food stamp program. So the money that is given to the USDA to subsidize farmers and things like that, that's where that fund comes from, that money. So that's the idea there.
Doesn't matter. It's still tax dollars.
It's still tax dollars, but
so I don't care what
when people utilize that, it goes that's the farm money that gets subsidized to the farmer.
Yeah, but
farmer here. But Joe Farmer.
You're saying that basically we pay the taxes in, they allocate this portion of it to
the USDA.
The USDA
to subsidize the farmers and subsidize, and in fact,
so it's
buy this product so there's demand.
So that $460 billion, part of it goes to farmers, part of it goes to food stamp recipients.
Well, it goes to the recipients, and as they purchase the food and then when they buy that product, that allows that farmer to have that money. So
still tax dollars.
Whoever said it wasn't tax dollars? There's nothing I've ever said it wasn't tax dollars.
I'm just saying you're not creating.
Right? You're funding. You're giving $400 million to the farmers, and then they say, well, in order for that money for them to receive it, they have to give the money to the people to buy the product such that they can produce the product and they get the subsidy.
But what I'm saying is that you don't need food stamps to supplement farmers. It's not something you have to do.
Well, but if you're going to have these, you need to have the farmers making this food, right? And if there's not a demand for it, then what's going to happen?
It's food. That's like saying that undertakers are going to run out of jobs. It's not going to happen.
But if you have a society that can't afford it, can't buy it.
Well, okay, but you don't. Just because a program is run that way doesn't mean it has to be run that way. It's not like the farmers are living off of food stamps.
But that's kind of how it was all started. Like that helps them produce their product for a reason.
Farmers are going to get subsidies whether food stamps exist or whether they don't. They're always going to bail farmers out. They make our food. That's just how it goes.
And so when the media bailing these farmers out, quote unquote, why not let the poor people eat?
No.
And that's what happens.
And that's what it was set up for. But like I said,
But now they're buying pop and things like that.
maybe
I get
maybe there's a section in the store where here's what your food stamps can buy.
There is. Yeah, everything's SNAP approved. It has to go through a program.
Yeah. So why are steaks on that program?
Because they rule that it's nutritious food, whatever.
Well,
there are weirder things that are on there that shouldn't.
But I mean, escargot is nutritious food, but it costs you $40 a plate. You know, at the right restaurant. You don't need it.
It's not based on a calorie per gram per dollar. You know what I mean? It's not that kind of basis. And maybe that's the argument. But I mean, just because you're poor, should you eat fucking shitty food? I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I disagree.
Why?
Just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to eat shitty food.
Why not?
And nutritious food, yes, not shitty food.
Well, but okay, so if you're poor,
processed government food, no,
yeah,
that's
absolutely,
not right.
yeah.
No.
So if you're poor, should you drive a shitty car?
No, I mean,
why don't we have a program that gives people Mercedes?
Car's not food.
I'm just saying, it's comfort.
Car's not food.
It's comfort.
Car's not food.
I understand that, but it's comfort. It's a matter of comfort.
If I decide to, if I'm on a welfare recipient and I get $600 a month or whatever I spend that $600 a month on is up to me. At that point,
it shouldn't be, is what I'm saying.
You're right, but it is, and it's a free country, so that's the way it is, right?
It's a free country, but you're spending someone else's money.
And maybe your own, because you're a contributing member to that pool at one time.
At that point, it's not your own.
I think
you are at that point. I would think you're a steward of that money. It was. Yeah, you paid in, whatever else. However, that money was given back to you because you're having a rough time at this point, and I think it should be spent soundly. And if people can't do that themselves, maybe we should
do it,
guide them along for them. Yeah, it's not your money. It's everybody. It's the collective's money. We all pitched into it.
Sounds like communism.
No, not even a little bit.
No, you can only eat this. You're poor.
Then don't be poor.
Not everybody chooses that.
I understand that.
Okay, so if you're old, retired, or disabled for that matter, so somebody who's disabled should never eat a steak again because they can't afford it, they can't work, whatever the case may be, should never enjoy let's say a decent dinner once in a while.
Now we're going back to the disabled. A minute ago, when it was convenient for your argument, you were using I paid into the system, I deserve a steak.
You can't. Where are you going to draw the line? You can't have the line. The problem is it's going to affect everybody.
Lines are already drawn in some aspects. Right. I think they should be drawn a little bit tighter. I think you should.
So where is
limit
that?
Some. I don't know. Steak, filet. You don't need filet mignon if you're on welfare. Yes.
I don't know. I mean, just because I'm old and I can't work anymore, it means I can't have a filet mignon.
Yep. Yeah. Should have saved you fucking money. Not my fault. It is not my fault.
I got hit by a drunk driver when I was 18 years old, and I can't work, and I'm disabled my entire life.
I sure hope you have some friends that feel bad for you to buy you a steak, because the government's job isn't to buy you a steak.
It's not about government's job. I mean,
it is.
It's about a certain level of I don't want to say lifestyle is not the right way, but quality of life too, right? I mean, that's one of the things that this country, we have all this money, we're insanely rich as a country goes.
We're in debt to our fucking. We're not rich. We're in debt.
Yeah, but you know who we owe that money to mostly?
Who?
Ourselves.
Our China?
Our own individual bonds.
Well, now you're getting into the Fed and how money's created and how it's all created a debt. That's a whole different.
But again,
podcast.
I'm not talking about that, but I'm just saying, like, all the bonds that exist out there, majority of them are held by United States entities.
I'm just saying, if you want a steak, get a job.
And people. Steak, get a job. There's the quote of the day.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
What if you have a job? You work 40 hours a week, but it's not a great paying job because you live in a part of the world that doesn't, or part of the country anyway, that doesn't pay all that great, and there's not many opportunities there, but it's a necessity that job be done.
What?
So
you keep coming up with these arbitrary what ifs.
Because they're not. You can't just put a blanket over everybody. That's what I'm saying.
But we do. And all I'm saying is the blanket needs to be refined. The blanket's already there. Mm-hmm. Not the blanket we gave the Indians, a different blanket.
Oh, man.
Not the same blanket. I don't think we should give them those blankets. I'm not saying that.
I mean, to hear me be this socially liberal is saying something, in my opinion, because typically I don't. I mean,
that's fine.
I have that same mentality.
You keep changing the arguments for the situation.
But the point is, you're putting lines, and you can't. If you're going to put a line there, you're going to affect people in a negative way that shouldn't be affected.
They should be affected.
Again, I don't think they should.
It's not their money.
It is their money, in a sense, right? As a collective, as a society it's been allocated to them, it's theirs. They should be able to do whatever they want with it.
So you should be able to buy methamphetamine with food stamps.
I mean, should be.
But that's according to...
Stamps, that's not food. That's a different argument, man. It's like that's saying you should be able to buy fucking a shovel with food stamps. It's not the same thing.
All right,
it's not
so
food.
so
Sustenance,
all right,
nutrition.
should you be able to use food stamps at restaurants? Should you take your food stamp to a high-end 5-star restaurant and get to spend $350 on one meal with your $600 a month? I mean, it's food.
If that's how you so to choose to use it, I suppose so. I think it's a terrible idea. Bad idea on your part.
I don't think it should even be allowed.
I think it's not all that.
You don't need a $350 meal at that point.
I don't disagree that you don't need it, but
just like you don't need the steak.
It's up to you.
So I think we both agree that there are lines. It's a matter of where they are.
But you could say what is hamburger okay?
Well, yeah.
Well, why not? No, you got a ground chicken. Hamburger's too expensive. I mean, say here. That's what I'm saying. We could do this all day,
well,
right?
You need protein.
A ground chicken, it's half the price, and it's just
okay.
As much
Fine.
protein.
You know what? Okay, great. I'm good. Then yes, I'm good with that. Then yep, fine. Fuck no hamburger.
No beef for you.
Yep, no beef for you.
No red beef for you.
You know, it's healthier for you anyway. So there. So yeah, that's
Depends
fine.
which study. You go to the beef study, you go to the chicken study, you go by the cow or the
depends
the
on
lamb
it
study.
depends on who paid for the study.
All right, exactly. But
I'm just saying you don't deserve the finer things if you're not getting them yourself.
And I say it's not up to you. What do you think I deserve?
It's not up to. Yeah, it is. It's my
that's
money.
how I don't feel about it.
It's partially my money you're spending.
And partially mine too.
Maybe it depends on which scenario you're using. So one scenario, your person
But the thing is, you can't
pitched in a lot, and one person didn't.
That.
Exactly. So if you're getting money that's not yours, yes, we can tell you how to spend it.
No,
that's my take
disagree
on it.
here. This is I really thought we'd be on opposite planes here. I really did.
Really?
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
It's not your money.
I mean, because you're all about social and I mean, I think you believe in social programs to a point, right?
I do. I started this off by saying that people out there need help, and we should help them.
Yeah.
However, there's help, and then there's abuse. There's abusing the system.
Well, agree
I think the system gets too abused.
I think hard to police that.
I think we need stricter guidelines on how that money gets spent.
So you find that person that's abusing it. Just out of curiosity, what would that look like? So you find this person that's abusing it. You take them out of the system. You stop supplying them with money or whatever the case may be. Now what happens?
But I'm not saying that because you can't do that.
Right.
That's how you create crime and criminals and whatever else.
I think you're right. I think that would happen. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that the system should be something that you strive to not be on.
I firmly agree with that.
But you don't.
So no,
you don't
you should
believe
strive not to be on it. Yeah, I think it should be a temporary
No,
thing.
it should be built so that people don't want to be on it. It should be. You
think it should be shameful? All those things.
No. I'm not saying shameful. I'm just saying it should be not so comfortable. It should be what it should be, which means we are going to keep you alive. That is our duty, to keep you. We don't want you to die from poverty in this country. Here's enough food for you to survive. If you want more than that, you're going to have to figure it out on your own.
Do you believe in single payer healthcare?
What's that?
Do you believe in single payer healthcare?
That's a whole other podcast.
I'm just curious,
I know that one's rough.
As a general,
I think it's a discussion that should be had.
Yeah.
And I think that they should definitely call it that, not free healthcare, because there's no such thing as free.
Yeah.
So, I think that comes down to, is healthcare a basic human right? And I know people complain about Canada and how it's terrible or whatever, but then those same people always say that our government's the best. So like, well, couldn't we do it better? So I don't know. I'd have to.
Well, it just brings into the thing, like you go into the stake argument. It's like, so right now the way it works is if you're sick and you're dying, the hospital will stabilize you for free, essentially, right? You have that right to be stabilized,
and I'm okay with that.
Minimum life, liberty, or not liberty, but you have that right to be.
And I'm okay with that.
But that's it.
Understood.
And that's why I'm curious. Like, do you believe that they should have steak too there, but not?
I've never been in a hospital that serves steak. I must be going to shitty hospitals.
I mean, as
I
a
get
service
Jell-O.
equivalent, a service equivalent, right? Like, should
Well,
but I'm just curious. Like,
the system is not set up that way right now. So I know that right now you get stabilized, and I know even with your own insurance company, a lot of times you won't get the CAT scans you need without going through a bunch of bullshit and everything else. Yeah. So would switching to single payer possibly help lower the cost of those things, and maybe mainstream stuff a little bit? I don't know. That's a whole nother
maybe we'll look at that sometime.
Which I think overall the idea of single payer, at least I would feel good about tax dollars going towards that. That's healthcare. It's different.
How is healthcare different than food? People can abuse healthcare all day, and I'll tell you right now, people do abuse healthcare all day. There's people on Medicaid that I know that go to the freaking hospital, to the emergency room because they have a sniffle.
Yep.
Because they can't go to a regular doctor because they don't have that kind of medical insurance.
Yeah.
So if I want,
which
I have a
actually
cold
having single payer healthcare would automatically get rid of that one problem right there. You wouldn't go to the emergency room anymore for a sniffle. You'd go to the doctor because you'd have a doctor. It wouldn't cost you any more money than what you're already paying in your taxes and everybody else is paying.
If you pay tax.
If you pay taxes.
I see it back to that. And that's what I'm curious. Like when we talk about things that are a right and are a necessity, and it's a right, it's an interesting idea because, I don't know, in society, it's a societal right. Like, do we believe in, to be a functional society, what are these rights that people should have? Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, not necessarily stake, in your opinion. But
I just think that if you're living off of money, that even if you've pitched into it yourself, if I pitch in, and pay taxes like I have for all these years that I pay taxes, and I end up in a bad spot and I'm on welfare, I don't think I deserve steak anymore. I'm sorry, but I'm in trouble. And I'm
not saying it's a good idea. I'm by no means saying it's a good idea, but I don't think it's up to you to decide what's a good for me or not.
It's my money. It's partially my money. It's partially everybody else's money. You are no longer using your own money. I can spend my money however I want. Mm-hmm. I can eat steak every day of the week if I feel like it. Mm-hmm. If you can afford it, you can do that. When it's someone else's money and it's there as a bailout, I think that, again, you're a steward of that money and you should make better choices with it.
There's a lot of shoulds, but I don't think you get to determine what they should do.
Why not?
That's
I think that the governing body that's giving you that money gets to set some guidelines on it.
Guidelines, and I think they do as a society, and they have.
And I think that
steak falls within those guidelines. So go fuck yourself.
But it shouldn't. and I say it shouldn't. You don't get steak. You get Spam. You can live off of Spam. Enjoy it. And you don't like Spam? Great. Get off of welfare.
Yeah.
It makes it too comfortable. And you shouldn't get food stamps and get a pool. Sorry, motherfucker. That you spend more money. I have a pool, a recent pool, and I know now what it costs to upkeep one over the course of the summer. Motherfucker, you could feed a family for that. Between chlorine and pH and filters and blah, all the bullshit that goes along with it. Almost like, remember when I had a boat? Yeah. And got rid of my boat because motherfuck, you just keep dumping money into it.
It's a money pit.
It was awful. So I got rid of it.
It's a great way to spend money.
No, yeah, and not enjoy it.
You know what's better than owning a boat?
Selling it.
A friend of the boat.
Yes, that is true.
That's right.
So anyway, you spend that money, and that pool has upkeep to it, and the upkeep that you spend on that pool, I could probably almost feed a family off of that. So I'm sorry, if you need welfare for food stamps and you have a swimming pool, get rid of your fucking pool and buy your own food. Not our job to do that.
There you go.
I think that's a fair statement, don't you?
I don't necessarily. I mean, I agree, but I don't agree. And I've already said why. But I think the biggest portion of this, and my part to the argument, is I believe it breeds a level of culture of dependency.
Here's how we're going to live now.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. And
then that's the part that I don't like. And is the answer to make it more uncomfortable? Is the answer to to put such limits on it that whatever? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's right. But I think as a society, it's just something we either one have to deal with and accept.
Well, let's try it. Let's try it for a while and see what happens.
Well, then there's that.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, one day we'll all be, the Great Recession will happen again, or something like that will happen. We'll all be starting over at some point or another, be our generation or another one, and again, maybe we'll have a better chance to redo it then. But
give them seeds.
Seeds, yeah.
Here's your garden. You don't get any vegetables from the store. You got to grow your own. You got nothing else to do while you're not working all day. Might as well sit around and look at your garden.
I drive through some of these neighborhoods where I used to work in Detroit and even Toledo and think, oh my God, there is so much open land that's not doing anything that could totally be growing vegetables. And it's so easy. Like like Home Depot and Lowe's, they try to sell all these plants every year and they throw away gobs and gobs of food producing plants that people could go and put out and harvest and work on. And I know there's some programs, there are some food plots, so on and so forth. There's not that many. I don't think there's enough, and I don't think it's funded right. I mean, there's some things socially we could do as a community to help change these and make these rules different and whatever. That's a whole other soapbox,
Yeah. Well, there you go. Maybe make welfare localized.
Well, it is kind of controlled by the state, so in
No,
some way.
every county.
That'd be interesting.
Now you're in charge of, and maybe counties would have, and maybe if you have a garden, then the people that are getting welfare have to go to that garden to work a couple hours a week or whatever. I don't know. Shit like that. Something. Don't have a pool, a fucking flat screen, a nice car, and everything else, and still get food stamps. I will be mad at you.
Well, don't take our word for it. Have a conversation with the people around you. I mean, the only way we can change things is by talking about them, putting them out there,
Or yelling.
I think
I did a little bit of yelling today.
I think it was probably the most yelling I've ever done on a podcast too. So I'm gonna go buy my steaks. So
Well, with whose money?
don't fucking matter to you.
It does matter. Was it my money?
And then probably not. You probably got a refund because you got kids.
I did not get a refund.
You took all my money when you had kids. And
I wish I got a refund.
I'm sure somewhere along the line when you have kids. I mean, that's just what happens, right?
You get a tax credit.
See, you fucking thief.
It depends on what you make. Depends on what you make, man.
For sure.
I fucking don't get me on taxes. I'll get really fucking mad.
Well, I'm Jeff,
and I am Angry Jay,
and this has been Arguably Correct.
Thanks for listening.